This story time is how I was scammed out of $20,000. Yes, 20,000. At the time, I was 26 and I was looking for ways for making extra money on the side. So basically, I was looking into investing my money into some sort of stock or company. I didn't know much about investing, but I would hear people talk about it all the time. A couple weeks later, I had a friend, and we're going to call him David. He invited me into an investment club presentation for multiple business. I was new to all of this, so I wanted to take a look at what he was talking about. There was one particular company that had an app for working out, and they sold workout clothing and weights. I thought their pitch was great and chose to speak with them. After weeks of discussion, there were contracts and everything. Me and a couple people invested into this company with our money, but the company members went ghost after a week. And this is when it gets crazy, like for part 2. This is part 2 story time of how I was scammed out of $20,000. So, like I said earlier, there was a particular workout app company I invested into. We filled out contracts. I gave them my part of the investment, which was $20,000. But after a couple days, they completely went ghost. I tried reaching out to the other people that supposedly invested, but none of them got back to me. I was so confused. So then I did my research on the company, which I should have done before, but there was no information. So then I went and talked to my friend David about it. When I showed him the contracts and everything they told me about, he basically told me that the contracts were fake and they scared me. We then went searching up the other investors, and it was like they didn't even exist. I realized that everyone I was speaking with were all actors. Even the investors were fake. The whole company was a scam, and I was scammed out of $20,000. Be careful out there. Do your research. This story time is about why I refused to ever live in a college dorm room. So my sophomore year, I was able to get a room with my best friend Tiana. I was happy because we always talked about getting a room together, but sooner or later, I realized it was a big mistake. There was one time I let her borrow my Ugg boots because it was cold outside, but she started wearing them every day. When she finally returned them, they were wet and dirty. I was irritated, and she said that she would give me the money to get new ones, but she never did. She then started asking if she could borrow a shirt. Me being nice, I let her. But she then started taking advantage. Girl was taking all of my things without permission. My jacket, pants, shorts, everything. And she wouldn't even clean them before giving them back to me. I confronted her about it, and she got mad at me saying it wasn't a big deal. A couple weeks later, I confronted her again about my things going missing, and she pretended not to know. When she turned around to leave the room, I looked down, and the bitch stole my damn underwear. Story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. By the way, we're calling him Michael. So me and Michael started talking in the middle of my senior year in high school. I met him at a friend's party, and he seemed pretty cool. He was very affectionate. He would take me out all the time. He introduced me to his family. He said he loved me within the first week. He wanted all of my time, and he seemed so perfect. Until suddenly, he started to get very controlling. He never wanted me to go out anywhere. He didn't like the clothes that I wear. He didn't like any of my friends. He made me feel guilty whenever I tried to do something for myself. After months of dealing with this controlling behavior, I wanted to leave the relationship. He got mad at me. He was threatening to hurt me and himself if I left. I told him I was done. The next day, like any old regular day, I go to school and I come back home. But when I came back home, I open up my door and I see Michael sitting on my couch with a taser. I'll be back for part 2. This is part 2 story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. So like I said before, I get home and Michael is sitting on my couch with a taser. I ask him, "What are you doing here? And how did you get in?" He's like, "Your mom let me in. I told her you asked for help for homework." I yell and call for my mom, and he's like, "Oh, she left. She said she was going to the grocery store real quick." I turn around and try to leave out the house. He runs and shuts the door. And he's like, "Oh, baby, please don't go. Listen, I heard you earlier, and I'm sorry for being so controlling. I just love you so much, and I don't want anything to happen to you." I asked him, "Why did you pop up, and why did you bring a taser?" He said, "I just wanted to surprise you." And I'm like, "For what?" He goes into his pocket and pulls out a ring saying he wanted to get engaged, trying to hand me a ring that looked like he got out of a gumball machine. I laugh at him, and he pushes me against the door. It gets real scary after this. Y'all let me know if y'all want a part 3. This is part 3 story time of my crazy stalker ex-boyfriend. So like I said before, he popped up at my house with a taser. He told me he wanted to get engaged, and basically if I didn't say yes, he was going to hurt me. So for the time being, I pretended like everything was okay, and I told him yes, even though the idea of it disgusted me. He told me he wanted to go on a getaway trip and that I should pack my bags. I was like, I have school tomorrow. And he said, you can miss one day of school for your man. I told him no, and he grabbed my arm, telling me to go get my stuff. I went upstairs immediately. And when I got to my room, I tried to call the cops, and I guess he overheard me because he busted into my room, starting to fight me. I don't know how, but we ended up in the hallway, and he fell down the stairs. He became unconscious, and at that moment, I ran out of the house, and I called the cops again, but about an intruder. He ended up waking back up and was arrested, but that wasn't just it. Couple years later, he came around stalking me at school, my job, even my friends and family. This story time is how I caught my boyfriend cheating on me with his sister. It was his stepsister, aka they weren't related, but they still grew up together, which was still weird. So me and my boyfriend had been together for 5 years, and I noticed him and his sister always had a close bond. They talk on the phone every day, and to me, it's normal because that's his sister. But recently this year, on his birthday, is when I caught him cheating on me. So my boyfriend had spent time with his family early in the day to celebrate, and I told him I was going to come over at night. But I lied because I was going to come over early and surprise him. So I went out, I bought balloons, cake, and I even got a damn PS5. I pulled up to his place, and as I'm getting everything ready, he walks out of his place with a girl, then hugs and kisses her goodbye. And it wasn't a peck, they went in. And me, I'm like shook because I just went all out for his birthday. And when the girl turns around, it's his sister. Here's another toxic best friend story time and how I ended up having to fight her over her own boyfriend. So we're calling her Regina, and at the time we just graduated college, and that's where she met her boyfriend Kyle. They were together for a couple months, but I never met him, and as the story goes on, you'll find out why. 5 months into their relationship, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I wanted to do a double date. The 14th comes, and she canceled on me last minute, and she literally said, word for word, that she doesn't need her boyfriend being tempted to try to cheat on her on Valentine's Day. I didn't like that because she was implying that I would be the reason why he cheated. Anyways, a couple months later, I planned for us to do another double date for 4th of July. So we went to the beach, and of course, we wore bathing suits. I wore a 2-piece and she wore a 1-piece with a skirt. When we get to the beach, I start to get undressed. She pulls me aside saying, "Why are you wearing that in front of my boyfriend? You look like a whore." Like for Here's part 2 of how I ended up having to fight my toxic best friend over her own boyfriend. So, like I said before, we go to the beach, we start getting undressed, and my friend Regina pulls me aside saying, "Why would you wear that in front of my boyfriend? You look like a." I get mad at her and tell her that we're at a freaking beach. What else do you expect me to wear? She starts talking about how I'm always trying to show off in front of guys that she brings around. And I tell her, my date is here also. Why would I do that in front of him or you? She tells me that I'm thirsty and that I'm looking for attention. I laugh because I'm like, she gotta be joking. Then out of nowhere, she takes my towel, throws it at me very hard as though she wanted to hurt me, and says, "Put your clothes back on, you." And guys, I crazy on this girl. Just know that at the end of the fight, she had a mouthful of sand in her mouth. And of course, the guys pulled us apart. She ended up packing all her things to go with her boyfriend, and I stayed at the beach and chilled all day.
Been kinda lonely on this Wednesday night, thinking about the things I did that made us fight.